Hey, welcome back to the Mission to Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Tim Yu. And if you've ever wondered why someone would buy an RV park, today is the episode for you. So I have a really good friend on today. Her name is Mychele, and she owns 3 RV parks across the country and is working on buying others. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on how she got to purchasing RV parks and why she purchases RV parks. And man, she might even convince me to do it too. So without further ado, let's get after it. All right, so let's get into it. Mychele, what's going on?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm super, super honored. So it's really nice of you to ask. Not much. I think we may have secured our 4th park, which is super exciting.
Whoa.
I just saw.
Wow,
So
so I'm like your good luck charm, huh?
yeah, right. Actually, the funny thing is that if we close this on the date that we are supposed to, it will make it officially 4 parks in 1 solid year.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely crazy. So obviously from the intro, I introduced you as the RV park queen. So,
Huh?
on that point, can you kind of tell the audience who you are, what do you do, and just introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. I do a lot of things. Let's see. My name is Mychele Bisson. I am a mom, a wife, and I actually just this last year retired my husband out of his high profile W-2 job. So
Love
I
that.
went into buying RV parks and repositioning them. So yeah, I feel like I wear a lot of different hats.
I know. I want to dive into most of them because I know you can talk for like hours about all the different things you do. Kind of talk about how you got started in real estate.
Well, okay, so we actually had some really good friends that COVID hit and we were all hanging out and everything was great, for a little bit. And then you start having that moment of what if things don't go back to normal? And my husband actually was in the spirits and wine industry. And what he specialized in specifically was on premise, which means restaurants. So you need people in
Okay.
restaurants. And that meant that his part of his company was really suffering. And we were kind of going through this whole thing of what if the world changes and this happens again? And thankfully, wine and spirits did great during all of that. But his particular area suffered because of what was going on. And so the restaurants were trying to find ways to make themselves survive. And they were allowing take home alcohol at that point. And that's how we kind of were surviving. Well, his company, his industry was surviving. But it really made me stop and look at our lives as a whole. We have a really good life and we did a lot of things. And if his job was gone tomorrow, that's a big fall. And it scared me. I'm going to be honest. It terrified me that all of a sudden he could be out of a job and I just like that because the world's never shut down like that for us before.
Yeah,
So
that is scary.
yeah, so it was just kind of a real moment of reflection. And I'd always been interested in investing in real estate. So every once in a while, I would pick up a real estate investing book and I'd read it. And we had some friends who we invited to dinner one night and they had just up and moved to Tennessee. And I was like, how did you guys up and move to Tennessee in the middle of a pandemic? You have 2 kids that are in private college.
Wow.
And not only did you buy yourself a cabin in the Smoky Mountains, but you bought yourself 3 all at the same time. And I was
Holy
like,
cow.
what are you doing? And so they came back to town and we had them for dinner. And my friend was telling me, she's like, yeah, she goes, well, we've been investing in real estate for the last 16 years. And I was like, why did I never know this? And she goes, I've told you, you just weren't in a place to hear it. Which was kind of one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I could have been doing this for 16 years. I
Holy
could be living
cow.
in the Smoky Mountains. And so what ended up happening was she sat at dinner with us that night, her and her husband, and they kind of showed us their numbers and all the properties that they owned. And we realized that they were retiring, they were done. And and it made so much sense because they travel the world all the time. So when they actually left that night, Patrick turned to me, my husband, and he goes, I think we could do that. Now, if you ever, like, if you know me, I hear things differently than everybody else. So my husband
Yeah.
says, we could totally do that. And I hear we're now investors. And so I went out the next day and bought a house
Oh, the next day?
the next day.
What'd you do? Please, let's talk about that.
Um, I actually I got online. I looked for investor groups in Facebook. I found a real estate agent. I wrote her in a message, and my message to her stated, I'm acquiring houses. I want to rent them out as long-term rentals. This is the area that I'm going to do them in. This is the price range that I want. These are the stats that I want. I want 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in these neighborhoods. And this is how much I'll pay you. And if you do a good job, I'll bring you every other deal. So she writes me back and she says, cool, I own a couple of houses that I rent out. Why don't we meet and I'll show you what we do? And I was like, great. So we set up an appointment for the following morning. And it was supposed to be at like 11:30. 9 a.m. that morning, she gives me a call and she's like, hey, I've got this listing that's about to go live. Why don't you come take a look at it because it fits your buy box? And I was like, so Patrick was off at a golf tournament and I tried to text him. So he can't say that I
Yeah.
didn't tell him. I tried to text him, but his phone was off and I drove over and looked at the house. I was in the house, kind of looked at it and said, I'll take it. This is what I'll give him. And I bought a house. So I get in the car and I'm like, I should probably let him know. So I'm texting him and he's not answering, and I'm calling him and he's not answering. So as I'm driving home, he finally calls me back and he goes, are you okay? What's wrong? Like all he gets is like 50 of these text messages that he missed and a bunch of phone calls. And I was like, hey, we bought a house. It's going to be fine. We'll talk about it later. And I hang up.
Jeez, okay, where was this?
This is in Colorado.
Okay. And then I'm guessing, did you just do like a cash purchase or did you like,
Well, no, I had
you're,
put in the offer. So I
and you
put
got
in
it
the offer.
accepted?
Huh?
And then you got it accepted?
And it was accepted.
Holy
Yeah.
cow, dude. You're a
So,
savage.
yeah. So then by the time I got home that afternoon, I got on Zillow. I listed it for rent. I actually got the deposit and my first renter's contract in 2 days. Showed it to Patrick and showed him that we were making an extra $700 a month and I didn't do anything.
Insane.
And so he was like, oh my God, that was so easy. And I was like, yeah, let's do it again. So we went out that next day and we did it on a 5-bedroom. And so now we've got 2 houses in one weekend that we've put offers in. And I did the same thing. I listed it for rent. I got it rented with a contract and a down payment. And I closed on both those houses in the same day and had tenants move in that night.
Holy cow, dude. When
Yeah.
was this?
This was in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys hit the real estate market before like it became cool to be real estate investors.
So the
You know what
crazy
I mean?
thing is we literally hit it right when the rates were dropping, but nobody was really catching up. Like I want to say that I have like a lucky star that shines on me because I always seem to know when to pivot into something. And this was kind of that moment. So we literally went in, bought those 2 houses in the same month, turned around and bought 2 more the following month. And we did that for about a year. And
Interesting.
so we ended up with about 12 of them. And we were doing pretty well. But you can only do so many conventionally. Like you're allowed 10 conventional loans under your name.
Yep.
And so we had pulled from stock, we had cashed money out, we'd taken out a HELOC, we'd found different ways to fund these houses. And so from there, one of our mortgage brokers actually found this piece of resort zone land and brought that resort zone land to us and was like, I think you guys should buy this. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that because there was no building on it. It was just dirt. And I was like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't really want it. And so it was priced at 1.6 million at the time. And so Patrick was like, well, I think we should really look at it. And I was like, I just don't want it. I don't know what to do with it. So about 2 to 3 weeks later, it comes back and the guy's now at 1.2. So Patrick brings it back. He goes, I really think we should look at this. And I was like, no, I don't want it. I don't know what to do. So about a week after that, it comes back again at 900,000. And he goes, you need to look at this. And I was like, I'm done talking about this. I don't know what to do with a piece of dirt. I said, if you really, really want it, offer him 500,000 in cash and see what happens. And he's like, they will never take that. And I said, I don't care. I won't. So he goes back and offers them 500,000 in cash. They counter at 700. I countered at 535. We ended up with this resort zone land that was 200 feet from one of the most popular golf courses in America for 565.
Is this the one in Arizona?
This is the one in Arizona.
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah, let's talk about
we got this piece of resort zone land in a beautiful area of Scottsdale for 565,000. And not only did we get that, but we actually got all of the approvals, the stamps, the architecture, all of it was done. All we had to do was find a builder. So we got everything for a little over $500,000. So we took our portfolio of single family homes and we took the plans and we went to our local bank in Colorado and we were like, we want to build a resort. And they were like, we're all in, let's do it. So
they're like, sweet.
The only project that they have funded out of state.
Oh, wow. But you're bankable though, you know what I mean? So they probably looked at your portfolio, your equity, experience. Yeah.
Crazy enough, our banker now has a short-term, he built an A-frame because we were doing so well on his land and he rents it out. He says it does gangbusters because he was like, I
love that. Great. So yeah, you're like inspiring your banker. That's like crazy.
Yeah. So now he's got a cash flowing asset. But yeah, so then moving forward, we build this resort in Scottsdale, which we love. And that is when we opened the doors was when my husband was like, I think it's time I'm leaving my job. And he left his job. And actually 2 days after that was when we officially joined Sub 2.
Oh, okay. Got it. So you open up the park, he quits his job, joined the community. And then I know that when we went to Arizona, you were actually staying at your own resort, which is a pretty cool thing to say. And then, so how did you become the RV park person? Like everybody talks about you and everyone talks about how you are crushing this RV park space. So
wow,
how'd you kind of get into that?
It was, I would say it was, I hate to say it this way, but it was kind of an accident. When Patrick actually decided to leave his job, it kind of, again, you go through that freak out moment because you've never really been completely without a W-2 and the safety net. And it was one of those moments where, we were doing really well, but we just opened this resort. I mean, it was literally the day we opened the resort that he left his job. And so you don't know how it's going to do. And we like to season everything for about a year before we really bank on it. And so here we are going into this, and I'm like, this is a $15,000 loan. Like, I don't really want to use any of the cash that we're banking right now. So we need to find a way that we can do this without using any of our money, which is how we ended up in creative financing with Pace Morby's group. And I had been like obsessed with the A&E show during COVID because it's just so good. And so when my husband brought me a couple of his YouTube videos, I was like, oh, we could totally do that. And he was like, yeah, I think we should look into it. And again, I heard it different. He said we should look into it, and I heard we should sign up. So I signed up. He's such a good man.
No, but every team's got to have the action taker and then the one that's more reserved. Everyone needs it.
Yeah, and I think we figured out which one is which. But so I literally signed up and was like, and he was like, oh my God, because we signed up for the creative finance, the Sub 2 elite program where you get the one mentorship. And so he was like, I think it was like 15,000 or something. And so he tells me, he goes, are you sure this is going to work? And I said, why are you thinking that way? I was like, I haven't steered us wrong yet. And I said, but I look at it and say, if we get one good deal, totally worth the investment.
100%.
So literally get plugged in, meet with our mentor for the first time. It was Justin Tumanowski, who is amazing. He's such a great person. Meet with him.
Shout out to Tumanowski. He's the man.
He is the man. So we connect with him. He's our mentor. And we're sitting there telling him our story. And he is like, yeah, you guys can't do single family homes. So we are like, we need bigger assets. What can we do? And so he throws out mobile home parks. storage units, laundromats, things like that. And we're like, okay, yeah, let's look at those things. So we start plugging into the modules, and somebody pops up and brings us in the community an RV park. So we start looking at it, we start plugging through the numbers. And the one thing that I knew about this park was where it was. My daughter was a competitive dancer for years, and we used to compete in this town. And so I
Okay.
knew all about their tourist market and everything else. And I was like, this should be doing so much better. So we kind of started really plugging in, started really looking at it, connected with the broker, really started talking to her. And then we kind of went and secretly visited the park. And when we first walked in, I was like, this is why it's not doing well. It was completely overrun. It had crazy people in it. It was trashed. There were drug dealers in it. It was just a place to be.
Got it.
And so I, at this point, was like, there's no way in the world. And this is when Patrick stepped in and said, you're not really going to let some little drug dealers run you out, are you? And I was like,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
so we were all at that point, and we actually negotiated them down from 3 million down to 1.8.
So you negotiated down to 1.8. Was it a creative deal or was it a cash deal?
So it was a hybrid. So we went into it with zero money. What we did is we seller financed a portion. Then we brought in a private money partner for a portion. And our private money partner actually sponsored us at a local bank that gave us 80% of the loan. So we ended up
Got it.
with all of the money plus a CapEx to go in right away and redo the entire park.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so with that CapEx, we were able to reposition that park from a 2-star park to a 5-star park, carry it for 2 months while we kicked everybody out, get it to a cash flowing state, bring in new management, place systems, rebrand the entire thing, tear down buildings, add pads, change electricity, and do all of that. And now we are packed. So
that was a lot of different things that you guys had to do. Now, I know you guys have experience. You guys have a very diverse amount of experience between your husband and yourself. If you were a new person, getting into the RV park space, do you think that'd be too much for them to handle? Like, what do you think? What do you recommend somebody should do if they were trying to dive into this?
Well, so here's the thing is that we did have a lot of experience. So going into it, we already had built a resort. We'd already done long-term rentals. We've already done short-term rentals. We kind of had a thicker skin. So going into the space, it was intimidating and scary. I'm very thankful that the first park I went into was so hard because I learned everything off the bat. But I also think that because of our capacity to handle that, we were kind of at a different spot. Like it wasn't intimidating to us. It was just kind of like, okay, this is just what we're going to do. So I think if you have a very thick skin, you potentially could go into something that hard. It was a very hard park. I'm not going to lie. It was extremely hard. There were a couple of months where I was kind of freaking out a little bit, but we also on the other side had cash flowing assets that were taking care of us. And
Yeah.
we had raised
Okay.
the CapEx so that we could kick everybody out of the park for 2 months and still carry it with the CapEx and not put any money out.
Okay. So you raised money prior to closing, like expecting X amount of months of all
Well, we
this.
didn't expect a certain amount of months. We knew that we were going to have to raise, but because of the way the deal was structured, what ended up happening is we had more than enough. And so because our seller financed, like I want to say it was a little over $500,000. Our private money partner came in with just under $500,000 and the bank came in with 80% of the loan. We ended up with more money and we took that money and put it in escrow. And then we pulled on it to reposition the entire park.
Yeah, I love that idea, actually. That was super, super smart.
Yeah. So it worked out really, really well, but it made it a possibility to walk in immediately and start just tearing things apart, which is exactly what we needed to do for that particular park.
Got it. And then, so for terms of management, so you said you turned over the new management. Did you keep the original owners on board? Or did you hire a whole new team?
Oh no, we got rid of everybody.
Got it.
So, I mean, you
Okay.
remember the original owners and the manager there were the ones who allowed that to happen at that park.
Very true.
So, and they were just mismanaging it. I mean, it was a 68 pad park. Only 30 of the pads are being utilized because everything else is being taken up. I mean, the drug dealer alone had 7 pads that he was using for his own junk.
Wow. Okay. Crazy.
So, yeah. And so that's kind of, that wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to completely clear it out and just start fresh. And we did. Like, we completely cleared it out. It took about 3 months to get us in a good spot. And then we started getting traffic back in. And then we started reaching out to the community to show everybody we were different again. And they started bringing in more traffic. So now we've gone through a summer, and now, like, today we had 10 new check-ins just today.
Wow. So
So
it's just going.
it's just going. I mean, we now have an amazing manager that we absolutely love. And from that park, our broker brought us another park 2 months after we closed on that one. And this woman had absolutely no want at all to sell her finance, she wasn't even sure she wanted to sell her park. And the broker was like, I think you need to meet this couple. And so when we met, she actually not only seller financed 100% of the deal, she actually stayed on as our manager.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How'd you swing that one?
We really just talked to her and found out what her goal was. Her goal wasn't to leave the park. Her goal was to leave her job because she was actually a commercial lender on top of it. So she was working at a bank as
Oh,
a commercial lender, and she was working at her park. And so her park was suffering because she couldn't be there every day. And
yeah.
so when we sat down and talked with her, the broker thought she wanted to quit the park and go work, but she really wanted to quit work and go work in her park. And because the bank that she worked at was the one, she took a loan out to upgrade everything a couple of years ago, she was afraid they would pull her loan.
Oh, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
she was scared about all that stuff.
So she wouldn't quit her job because she was afraid. And so when we found that out, we actually went back and restructured the deal. And so originally we were just going to buy it out from her, and we were going to do 100% seller finance. We had asked for 100% seller finance, which she wasn't interested in. But when we actually found out that that was what she wanted to do, we went back with a new deal, and we were like, listen, we'll give you your asking price. Our original was, we'll give you your asking price and we'll buy it in cash, or we'll buy it under seller finance. Or we'll buy it at 1.3 and we'll go and get a bank loan. We'll pay it in cash. When we found out what her pain point was, we went back and restructured the loan and said, listen, we'll give you your asking price and we will actually keep you in the deal and hire you on as our manager so that you can quit your job and come and manage the park, and we'll pay you a fee. We'll pay you $40,000 a year. And she came back and actually was like, I'll give it to you for the 1.3 then.
Like, what? You're like, excuse me?
So she ended up giving it to us for the lower price, and she seller financed all of it, including the down payment, which we actually don't have to pay until year 3. And then the brokers on the deal, actually, this was a genius move on my husband's part. The brokers on the deal know now that since we have such a great relationship, that any LOI we put out, we will work really hard to close. And so they agreed that we could pay them half of their fee the day that we closed. So we took the money out of the proceeds, and we will pay the second half on the 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, I love that. Love that creativity there.
Yeah. So we used zero money to buy that park.
Dude, that's a pretty gangster deal. And I'm guessing the lady who now works there, she gets her salary and she still has a seller finance note. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So she's like living really good and she's happy.
Oh, yeah. And she actually just went on her first vacation in like 10 years.
Holy
So
cow.
she was like, well, that was one of the things in the agreement. She was like, I want to take a vacation every year. And I was like, pick a month, take the entire month and go on vacation, go do whatever you want. So for the month of September, she left and went and did an Atlantic cruise. And Patrick, myself, and my dad actually went and ran the park.
Oh, that's so sick. Holy
Yeah.
cow. That story honestly is like, that's actually beautiful. Like, not to be like corny, but like that is
Oh, thank
awesome
you.
because you literally like just changed her life You got a great park. It's making a lot of money. She's
Yeah.
going on freaking cruises. That is such a good story. My
Yeah, no,
gosh.
and it's actually great because that park is right off of Route 66 and it is booked like 95% of the time.
I love that. Where is that exactly?
So it's in between Carthage and Joplin, Missouri. So it's on Route 66
Oh,
and we're right
okay.
next to one of the original drive-ins.
Yeah, you like love Missouri, don't you?
You know what? They just happened to pop up there. I like Missouri as a landlord state.
And you have one in Branson?
I have one in
No, no.
Branson. I have one off
Okay.
of Route 66. And then we also have one in Hillsville, Virginia.
Okay, got it. And then I don't want to let's not talk about the new one because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to put no bad juju in there.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so you guys have three operating parks. What's
Yes.
next? Like besides the potential fourth park, but like what's next for you guys? Like what are you trying to like? What's your long-term goals and what are you working toward?
So we actually we just launched a fund with the help of Pace Morby and his team. They invited us out to learn how to do that. And so we started up our fund. Um, and I don't want to jinx that either, but we actually hit well above our goal and we've only had it open for like 2 weeks.
I love that.
So but we funded the parks I think that we need to. We'll know officially on Monday. So we're going to expand on this fund. We want to purchase about 11 to 15 more parks in it and basically do them as creatively as we can, trying to go in with as little money as possible so that we can use the money in the fund to actually reposition the parks completely, get them to cash flow as much as possible, and give our investors back the biggest return.
Love that. That
And
is
so
a
I
pretty
think
good goal.
partnering those things together is going to really give our investors a huge bang for their buck. So,
Dude, that's sick. I remember I think I talked to you for the first time maybe like 6 months ago. And I was actually think so. I think I was or maybe it was longer than that, honestly, but I was asking about the Iowa deals. Yeah, I was like, hey, I got these like Iowa deals and like, and then yeah, now you're building a freaking fund. Oh, by the way, we did close those six houses.
did you really? Did you take my
Yeah.
idea of changing
We're
the
thinking about it because we're in the transition right now. So we had six long-term tenants in there, and then now we're in the process of flipping them. But yeah, we ended up closing on it. It ended up working out. We thought we were gonna lose it because the bank did not want to fund it like 3 days before closing.
Mhm.
So we called the seller like, hey, you're selling four of them creative. Do you want to just do all six? And the seller's like, sure.
Yeah.
So it actually worked it worked out for everybody.
Well, I think it's good to ask. I mean, honestly, one of the things that we didn't realize when we bought our first park, we were 2 weeks in, literally 2 weeks in sub two. Didn't totally understand seller finance. Now that we understood it, we actually become really good friends with the guy who sold it to us. Um, and so we were having a conversation with them. And the funny thing is he came back and he goes, "Why didn't you ask me for more? I would have seller financed more of it." But we never asked.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, we never asked.
But you know
And
what's crazy though? Like when you talk about creative finance, like I was literally talking to a coworker today at lunch, and he's like talking to a broker about a property he's been trying to buy in Michigan. And I'm like, how long has the house been on the market? He's like, over 100 days. I'm like, just ask them if they'll take payments over time. And he was like, wait, what? Like people just they don't think that way. They just don't understand that you can even ask people for that.
yeah. Well, and I think that when you phrase it differently, like you find different ways to phrase it, like you just said. So ask them if they'll take payments over time. And that's it doesn't trigger that response that no, I don't want to do that. So like
Yeah.
we say to our park owners, we'll come in and we'll say, listen, if we can show you how we can like make this park exactly what you want it to be and make sure that you can retire with a paycheck every month so that the government's not coming after you for a huge lump sum, would you be open to talking to us?
Mm,
And that just
like it's
shifts
too
to like,
good.
oh,
Yeah.
so it
100%.
makes them a little more open to, okay, let's talk about this. I mean, even our Virginia deal that when we closed that one, we actually have two seller finance notes on that one because
Oh, okay.
they originally seller financed it from the original owner. And so when they were selling, they were like, well, we can't sell or finance it because we sell or financed it the first time. And if she finds out, she's going to call the note. And so we were like, well, why don't you let us talk to her? And
It's so
so
simple.
it's so simple. And so we went back and actually talked to her, and um, we had a simple conversation. She had a couple of things that she wanted to put in place. But she was like, and actually, here's the thing that was really interesting. So this woman and her husband had bought like 18 parks a long time ago, had ran them. She had lost her husband. She was trying to sell everything off. This was one of the last ones. She sold it last year to this family. They were now running it. They did a gangbuster job on it. They raised it from, I think the NOI starting was 250. Now they're just over 500,000. And we think we can
Wow.
push it over the million mark. And so, so she was like, they do a really good job. I don't really need to know. I don't know. I just don't want it. So no, I want you to cash us out. She talked to Patrick and our CFO, and then Patrick came back and he goes, hey, I need you to jump on the next call. And I was like, okay, but why? Like, okay. Because I'm in Missouri running one of the parks at this time. And he was like, I just think it will work. Just jump on the next call. And I was like, okay. So I jumped on the next call. And so we're talking and we're having this conversation with this nice lady. And she goes, okay, so Patrick, you're the CEO. And he goes, no, Michelle's the CEO. And she goes, really? And I was like,
Oh.
like I'm the one who's in charge. And she was like, let's sell the park. It was that simple.
Once she heard that there was a lady boss, she was like, yeah, I'll sell it.
Yeah. She was like, I just want another woman to be in a space where she can dominate, and I want to be part of helping that out. And so it was literally that simple. Like, you just don't know what it is that gets them. And I think that is what the dynamic of having a team is.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
I'm not selling you on the idea, Patrick potentially could, or our CFO will. So there's 3 different
Yeah.
personalities that come in that can talk to anything that is going on with you.
I love that because I had a seller that the agent and the seller both did not understand seller finance. And they were like, no, 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 I don't want to do it. And I said, well, do you have a good relationship with your CPA? And he was like, yes, if my CPA tells me something, like, I'll believe him. I said, okay, what if my CPA talks to your CPA? And the reason why we structured this seller finance deal for a 12-year note, right? Because he was like, well, I don't want to hold a note for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's a reason why. And I said, if you can give us a chance for our 2 CPAs to nerd out, have a lovely, conversation, they will explain why it's a 12-year note. You will literally not pay a single dollar in taxes if you sell this house this way. And once that conversation happened, he literally signed the papers and said, here you go, have the house.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I can't articulate it, but my CPA can. So he's like, so I love what you just said, like, to utilize the team that you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that was a huge lesson going into this community for us. It was that because we've always done everything alone, like it's always just been us. And now we're bringing people in, and it was a little scary at first, but it's the truth. You can go fast alone, or you can go farther with people. And we're putting people in place on our team, and it just has increased everything so much. Like, even with our fund, we wouldn't have been able to raise all that money in less than a week without having more brains on it than just us. I mean, it's just knowing who you know, what you know, how you speak to it. I cannot explain things the way our CFO explains things. I can give them a vision all day long,
Yeah.
but when you get down to the nitty gritty of numbers, I need him to step in and say, okay, let's break that down.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a smart dude. I won't talk numbers at all.
I cannot nerd out. I can story tell all day long. I cannot nerd out.
So I do have a burning question for you before we kind of wrap this whole thing up. Are you ready?
I think so.
RV park or mobile home park? Why do you like the RV park so much more?
Because I feel like I get a bigger return. So mobile home parks, what usually happens is you have the pad, somebody brings in a mobile home park, or you own the mobile home and you put it on. It's costly to move it. You still have tenancy laws, leases, things like that. And you have a monthly payment. My RV park, I feel they're a little more diverse where I can change the model of it at the drop of a hat. If you need an affordable housing place, you can come stay in my park for less than $700. If the economy is going great and people are on vacation, I charge you nightly. That's
Mm.
a huge thing. So if I'm charging you $600 to stay in my park for the month, and I do put part of every one of my parks has a long-term stay area, which I do have people who stay there and they make sure all of our bills are paid. But the rest of my park, I charge nightly and weekly, and I have an upcharge for those. So I'm charging $60 a night for you to stay in my park.
Wow.
So that's what, $1,800 or something every month. I mean, that's twice as much as I'm going to make on a monthly. So if I have 40 pads doing nightlies at $60 a night and 25 pads doing long-term rentals, my bills are always going to be paid and I'm making a huge cash flow. Plus,
So you're telling me I should sell all my single families and go buy an RV park?
yes, I am actually.
Honestly, people like you make me think about it all the time. I'm like, why do I have all these single family rentals? And I'm
I'm going
like,
to say that being from somebody who started in single family rentals, I totally understand because I was like, no, I'm in this space. I'm good. I've got a comfortable living. I'm making a good amount of money. I'm okay. When we switched over, I was like, sell them all, sell them all.
oh my God.
Yeah. So we actually just got rid of 3 of them.
Wow. So you're like, I'm done with this single family crap.
You know what? I don't have tenants. I don't have leases. I don't have tenancy laws that I have to deal with. I don't have to deal with evictions. If I don't want you on my park, the sheriff will come and pull you out in 2 hours. If I
Oh,
unplug you from my facilities, like if I unplug your electricity and your sewer from my park, you're now considered an abandoned vehicle. You're no longer considered a home.
you can like literally like cut off like power and stuff to that one like
Yeah,
lot.
it's private property. I mean, and it's based on area, of course. Like I wouldn't buy in certain states because of certain laws. But the states that I buy in, they're very, very landlord friendly, but it also helps a lot that I had somebody who abandoned an RV in our lot and the sheriff came by and he goes, it's impeding business. Get it out. And there are towing companies who will literally come, they will tow it out for free. They impound it, then somebody has to come and either pay for the impound fee or they auction it off in 30 days.
Yeah, so they don't really care either.
So they don't care. They're making money on it either way. And I don't have to pay the fee for it to get taken off of my lawn. So
My
I
God.
have very low overhead. All I have is I think my largest staff right now is 11 people. And that's for my 98-acre park in Virginia. But it's got
Yeah,
full
you just
water
made
slides, an arcade, a bar, it's got a grill, it's got everything. But most of my parks, like one of my parks literally has one guy who lives on the park to kind of make sure everything's okay. And he gets paid as much as his spot fee for the month. And then I have a
oh,
maid, and she doesn't live on site. She comes in and out every day.
got it. So you have somebody he's like a Hagrid if you're a Harry Potter fan when he just walks around,
Make sure
make sure
everybody's safe.
things are
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I
Very
mean,
cool.
my overhead is so low. So, when I look at both models, I think both models are great and there's different things that you can do in either one. But I really just kind of like the idea of not having to deal with people all the time. And there's all the value adds to it. I rent out golf carts, I have arcades, I have camp stores, ice machines, propane tanks. I'm adding all this value to my parks where if my long-term guests don't usually use those things. It's my seasonal transient guests that come in
Yeah.
that use all of those amenities. So I'm making extra cash. I mean, my golf cart rentals in one of my properties does $100,000 a year,
Just for golf carts?
just golf carts. And we only have 20 of them and they're booked every week. And so we're
Gee,
actually looking to add 20 more.
that's insane. Is that your Scottsdale one? Or is that
No,
like
that's my park. It's not Scottsdale is a resort. This park is
okay.
in Virginia.
Oh my gosh. And people are just like renting out your golf carts like crazy?
Yeah, I mean, they solidly make $100,000 a year. That's just on that. I mean, I've got my RV rentals in my Branson Park. I seller financed and sub-2'd all our RVs there. put less than $1,000 into them, and they make us $100,000 a year.
Holy cow.
So lots
Jeez.
of value adds. My ice machine does like 30,000 a year. Um, yeah, like just lots of different value adds. There's the great thing about RV parks is they're almost like a business with multiple businesses attached to it.
Yeah, I agree. Do you like I don't want to like go into this like deep rabbit hole, but like do you have separate like LLCs for like each business within the business?
It really depends on what we're doing. And so, like what we do is we do structure a different LLC for the land and then an LLC from the park. And so the park rents the land. So
Makes
that's
sense.
one way we structure that. Then with our RVs, the way that that is structured, that was actually purchased under another one of our LLCs and we rent those out. And so the park pays us to rent those out.
Okay. I see where yep, I'm following. I'm like drawing like an imaginary picture in my head, so I see it.
Yeah, so the funds go into the park, and then the park pays us for the rights to lease them out.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, and so there's just different things that we do with all of our businesses that it kind of protects us if anything happens, but it also doesn't cease everything from working if one thing gets in trouble.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're keeping it separate just in case like
Yeah.
catastrophic something happens. Okay.
Yeah. And we're
Well,
kind of
dang.
keeping everything in a way that we always get like everything's being rented from one of our LLCs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Shoot, man. I feel like I gotta like reevaluate my life after this. But um but uh, but the big thing is no, like that it's been a lot of knowledge that got poured into this 40-minute segment here. I do want to do this one spotlight thing for you where you get a chance to kind of talk about what's going on with you and then ultimately where people can find you. And because I know you got something coming up, so I want you to kind of talk about it and promote it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we have our
Sorry
first
for throwing you off. Sorry for
I
throwing you off the game here.
no, I'm doing my first 2-day workshop with Ashley Perez. That's actually next week, right before Owners Club. So it's on October 29th and 30th at 9 a.m. And you can actually register for that at parkyourwealth.com. So we are going to actually go through the steps of being able to buy your first RV park. And we actually want you to walk out of there feeling comfortable submitting your first LOI. So I'm
Whoa.
gonna like I was actually working on notes right before I talked with you on all of like the stuff that we look at when we go in and do our due diligence.
I
Like
love that.
everything from like let's look at the financials to let's secretly call all the RV parks around the area and pretend like we're gonna come camp to find out the dirt. So it's a whole system. But yeah, so we're doing that. I'm getting ready to actually launch my own webpage called MycheleBisson.com where you'll be able to find out where I'm doing workshops and then get little tips and tricks, find out how you can invest with me in the parks that we are actually doing. We just launched our fund, which, we have done really, really well for the last week and a half that we've been open. So we've got a lot of interest and a lot of people who actually are already invested in it and ready to get into our first couple of parks. We already have the first 3 lined up, and one of them might be in Alaska.
Oh,
I know I'm excited about that. So, yeah, we've just got a lot of things going on, and I'm super excited about where we're going to go in the next year. So, anybody wants to come and join us, come check us out and follow me on Instagram at Mychele Bisson. And you can actually see all of my tips and tricks and all the things that we're doing in all of our parks.
I love it. I'm so excited to see your growth and where you're gonna go in the next year or so. And you'll probably see me at one of your boot camps. So thank you so much for coming to the show today and just sharing just so much value today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super honored that you asked. So I am excited that you will come to one of my workshops. I really, really think you should look at RV parks because I think that once you get into them, you're going to be addicted. So just the idea of being able to add so many flows of cash flow, completely different game changer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I'll see you in a couple weeks in Boston.
All right. See you next week.